Today we're going over the top 10 abandoned places in Louisiana. There are hundreds if not thousands of abandoned places in Louisiana, so make sure you like if you want to see a part 2. Today the list is going to start off easy and the spots are going to get cooler and cooler as the list goes on, so make sure you stay till the end. I must say this for legal reasons, but I do not recommend going to any of these places. Trespassing is illegal and you can be punished to the full extent of the law. With that being said, the first spot on our list is the General Laundry Building in New Orleans. Built in the 1930s, the General Laundry Building is an example of Art Deco architecture. During its heyday, the laundromat hosted monthly fashion shows. Champagne was served while models displayed homespun and exotic clothes in the current fashions. After a fire had destroyed his previous building, Robert Chapoit, the president of General Laundry, commissioned this beautiful Art Deco building by the architectural firm of Jones Rosel Olshner. Sadly, the building's stint as a laundry facility was short-lived. With the invention of the in-home modern washing machine, Chapoit closed the facilities in 1945 and sold the building. Since then, the building has gone through the hands of several companies that have done nothing to preserve it or restore it to its former glory. Dixie Brewing Company, New Orleans. The Dixie Brewing Company was a regional brewery founded in 1907 and churned out its locally produced libation for nearly 100 years before its brewery was ruined by the flooding and looting. Iconic and monolithic, the large industrial brewhouse was evacuated when the leaves broke, flooding much of New Orleans. In the rush chaos of the ensuing weeks, looters took the unguarded building and stole pieces of the brewing equipment and nearly everything else of value at the site. Between the looting and the damage to the building and the remaining equipment, the brewery could no longer function when the water finally receded and production had to be contracted out to other breweries, costing a number of people their jobs and moving the long-time New Orleans business out of the area. Exhibit B Apartments in New Orleans. This 5-story, 450-unit apartment complex had a notorious reputation for crime and violence. Opening in 1964, it was once one of the oldest and most troubled housing complexes in New Orleans. The Black Panthers and the African-American New Orleans Saints players were the first to move into the apartments. By the early 1970s, half of the units were under lease by the Federal Housing Administration and subsidized by the Red Cross. From 1970 till today, no owner has kept the property for longer than 7 years. Each time it has changed hands, new owners make little to no effort to rectify the existing problems. A lack of management has caused the complex to fall into deplorable conditions. Broken elevators, rusty railings, broken pipes, and rodent and termite infestations were common. The property was a dumping ground for old tires and piles of rotting garbage. The security gates did not close. New Orleans Police Department enforced extra patrols around the property to reduce the rise in gang activity, but never made any arrests. The maintenance workers would rarely enter the property for fear of being robbed or killed. By the early 1990s, the apartment complex was a battleground from a rash of shootings and killings. In 2005, after Hurricane Katrina, 135 out of the remaining 364 units were vandalized. On Thanksgiving Day in 2012, the remaining 100 tenants were evicted and the complex was condemned. Market Street Power Plant in New Orleans. The power plant was constructed by the New Orleans Railway and Light Company and opened in 1905, producing power for the city of New Orleans that same year. The local newspaper billed it as the largest electrical generating plant in the South. The enormous brick building encompasses over 160,000 square feet. Within the building footprint are 7 individual buildings, interconnected with various floor sizes. Plant workers faced a hostile, dangerous environment, each day from unbearable heat and steam. With hot surfaces all around, injuries happened regularly. In 1922, the New Orleans Public Service merged with numerous power companies and acquired the facility. It was deemed that all power to the city of New Orleans would be produced by Market Street Power Plant. The generating station supplied power by burning coal and using the waters of the Mississippi River for cooling. After generating power for more than 65 years, Market Street last produced power in 1973. Then it became a backup source. The plant officially closed in 1984, cited for numerous environmental violations. E.A. Conway Memorial Hospital in Monroe. The old E.A. Conway Memorial Hospital was built in 1941 and originally named Monroe Charity Hospital, but was renamed to honor the Louisiana Secretary of State E.A. Conway in 1948. The hospital served the city of Monroe for years until it was abandoned in 1987. This creepy, rundown building is said to be home of the spirits of the patients they lost to the hospital. Avid ghost hunters in Louisiana regularly visit the site, with some claiming to see patients walking the halls, hearing doors slam closed, and old rusted hospital beds creak as if they were being moved. The Touro Shakespeare home in New Orleans. The original Touro almshouse was built with money left by philanthropist Judah Touro. Touro was a famed Rhode Island-born merchant who moved to New Orleans and made a large fortune through shipping and real estate. The concept of a facility to care for the indigent and homeless came from a dying wish of Touro. A year after his death in 1854, the city acquired land on Charter Street. By 1862, amidst the Civil War, work was completed on a 3-story castle-like Gothic structure. Within months of its completion, the Union Army occupied occupied New Orleans, and Touro's almshouse became its headquarters. In September 1865, with federal troops still occupying the building, a fire broke out in the makeshift army kitchen. The building was destroyed. The city was determined to rebuild. It took a few years, but by 1895, then Mayor Joseph Shakespeare combined proceeds with the gambling tax with interest earned by Touro's original bequest to help build its successor. The new building was constructed out in the country of Uptown. In exchange for his efforts, Shakespeare's name was added to Touro's name of the new building. That iteration lasted for about 30 years. By 1937, with the population of Uptown growing, the Daniel Street building was set to be demolished. The Touro Shakespeare home was moved to General Meyer Avenue in Algiers along the west bank of the Mississippi River. The Algiers property was completed in October 1933, but a contractual dispute with the architect over his compensation kept the building unoccupied until October 1934. The total cost of the facility was $228,000, or about $4.5 million in today's money. The building served as a city-operated nursing home for over 70 years before it was destroyed by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The property has been abandoned and left deteriorating ever since. Plaza Tower in New Orleans. Plaza Tower may be one of the tallest abandoned buildings in the country. Constructed in 1969 with over 485,000 square feet of space, it's the third tallest building in all of Louisiana. It was originally designed as an office space with some residential offerings. However, in 2002, the building was abandoned due to black mold and asbestos issues. The building was sold in 2005 for $4 million, and again in 2011 for $250,000. Despite it still being abandoned and closed to the public, it's a prominent feature of the New Orleans skyline. Civil Defense Control Center in New Orleans. In a city known for being completely flat, a suspicious hill is located in between two main roads in a neighborhood just outside of downtown New Orleans. Hidden inside are the abandoned remains of a Cold War-era fallout shelter. The subterranean bunker was built as a prototype for the nation and designed to be the headquarters for city officials in case of a natural disaster or nuclear attack. The location was chosen due to its quick interstate access to City Hall. New Orleans shipping industry, in close proximity to Cuba during the height Cuban Missile Crisis, warranted the shelter's continued use. It eventually fell into disrepair, and its bottom floors are now flooded after years of neglect. Jazzland Six Flags Amusement Park in New Orleans. The amusement park first opened its doors in 2000 as Jazzland, but was shortly renamed Six Flags New Orleans in 2003 before it was abandoned. The park was built tough. Rides such as the Mega Zeph were constructed with metal risers to prevent termites from turning the wood coaster into an all-you-can-eat buffet. Coasters and buildings alike were engineered to withstand hurricane-force winds and other severe weather, but nothing could protect against what was to come in 2005. August 29, 2005 would mark Six Flags' last day in operation. As Katrina crashed into the southern coastline, water levels quickly rose, and anti-flooding systems failed dramatically. Now before we hit number 1, a lot of you guys ask me how I find all these abandoned places. And truthfully, I find all these places right on the internet. That's why in today's video, I am promoting NordVPN. NordVPN is essential to online life without limits. By shielding IP addresses, NordVPN protects users' privacy in virtual location, meaning you can see secret online websites that are only visible to specific IP addresses. The best part is that NordVPN offers a 30-day money-back guarantee for first-time buyers. You will be refunded the full amount if you are not happy with the service. If you guys would like to learn how to find abandoned places without the internet's limit, then I recommend NordVPN. It will be the first link in the description. Charity Home in New Orleans. Charity Home was once considered the safety net of New Orleans. It was a place where anyone could go and receive the best healthcare available. The hospital was established in 1736 by a French shipbuilder, whose dying wish was to fund a hospital for the poor. The first hospital building, a small cottage in the French Quarter, opened a year after New Orleans was founded. Charity Hospital quickly outgrew that facility, and a handful of temporary hospitals sprung up around New Orleans. The administration was taken over by the Sisters of Charity, a group of Catholic nurses who would run the hospitals along with the Medical College of the University of Louisiana. By the 20th century, New Orleans was rapidly growing, and indigent care again exceeded Charity's capacity. In 1939, the governor commissioned a new Art Deco-style hospital tower in Tulane Avenue in the lower Mid-City neighborhood. Charity Hospital became the second largest hospital in the country with 2,680 beds and encompassing 1 million square feet. It was known as a teaching hospital, a place where students from LSU and Tulane University could receive medical training. Charity Hospital served over 100,000 indigenous citizens each year before it closed. Charity Hospital was the longest continual running hospital in the country until August 2005. The leaves broke on August 29, 2005 as Hurricane Katrina made landfall. Rising floodwaters caused Charity Hospital to lose power. The electrical and mechanical equipment was underwater in the basement. The basement morgue flooded as well, sending bodies floating down the basement hallways. Doctors instructed the staff to pull the bodies out of the flooded basement and stack them into the stairwells. The floodwater trapped everyone inside for days with no power. Patients were hand-pumped oxygen by anyone willing to help, eventually being paddled down the flooded streets by staff to a nearby parking deck. After being carried up to 7 flights of stairs, they were taken by helicopter to another nearby hospital for treatment. Several patients died in the parking deck, waiting to be rescued. Finally, a week after Katrina devastated New Orleans, the last patient was evacuated. Governor Blanco stated Charity Hospital would never reopen as a functioning hospital again. Charity Hospital remains abandoned and locked down. So guys, those were the top 10 abandoned places in Louisiana. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you want to see a part 2. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Peace.